Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Moral back with another Prehistoric Kingdom speed build, and today we are building for the Velociraptor at the front of our city zoo. So this is a pretty simple enclosure. I didn't want to go too crazy at the start here. Even though it's like a Velociraptor and that's kind of like I would say a star animal, I kind of wanted a smaller, simpler exhibit for these guys right in front of the main entrance. I was kind of inspired by like how some zoos might have like penguins or flamingos, smaller like bird-like animals at the front of their zoos. And I kind of wanted to do that here. And at the start here, you can see I was working around with like different layouts, and then I finally got one I settled on right here. I kind of cut a little bit here, sorry guys. But I didn't want to show all of the messing around, because I do a lot of messing around with like just painting out outlines right before I started the build. And I showed one of them, but there was a couple others. None of them really worked, and so I kind of made one that I liked, and I started to get to work on this enclosure. So yeah, starting us off here, I kind of went out of order than the way I typically would. Like I started with the interior of the enclosure here, trying to like inform where I want these view places to be. I wanted to have a central like sort of platform that's a little bit elevated compared to the rest of the exhibit. And I wanted like most of the view areas to kind of circle that. So you can see here, I start off with the default fences, but I go in and change those later. Just to kind of, well, for one, to keep the animals in so they don't run around the park while I'm building. I really like playing in just like unpaused time. It's really fun. Just seeing your animals run around while you're building, it's just super fun to me. So yeah, here I am starting to build the actual enclosure, and I wanted to do something a little different than the fences in the other part of the zoo. I just kind of wanted to sort of make it a little different. Obviously, animals that can't climb, like Dilophosaurus or Styracosaurus, you don't have to worry too much about them climbing out of their enclosure or anything, but I figure a Velociraptor would be a lot better at climbing out and escaping, so I kind of wanted to make these like chain link, kind of like cat fences. They have like the hanging chain on top. I forget what the word is for that, but it sort of like has this overhang. That way they can't just climb out, they'd have to climb like upside down, and that's enough deterrent for most animals. I also added that little platform at the bottom, kind of to prevent them from like digging out. And yeah, that's how I want to do the viewing. I also add a lot of rock work in. I wanted to keep the enclosure pretty simple, but I also wanted it to look good, so I threw in some rocks. I also wanted some elevation change. That was a big thing I wanted, and recently I've been like trying to improve upon. It's just my ability to build around elevation and not just build completely flat terrain with like maybe like one hill and one ditch. I want my enclosures to feel like they've been built into the side of some natural terrain. And so here on this exhibit, I decided I wanted kind of this steep curve, and I wanted it to seem like the enclosure was dug around into it. And I'm not sure if it'd be like a natural hill or something the zoo designed to give guests a better view, but I just tried to make the enclosure kind of go vertically up this hill, and you'll see later it looks pretty decent. I think we definitely need like a sloped path tool like Planet Zoo has or something, because it's so hard to make a path that doesn't have like 100 bumps in it if you're not working on like even terrain. It actually is like so frustrating. But anyways, as you can see here, I'm just kind of laying down the groundwork for the rocks, and I kind of wanted to do I wanted to introduce a bunch of different like viewing types of areas. I wanted like, you know, your typical just look in the enclosure, but I also wanted like the overhang where people can walk up. I also wanted these kind of like attraction kind of viewing panes, sort of like for your younger audience. It's like, oh, you can squat down, you can look at these animals like right up close if they come up to the window, just to kind of like have some sort of entertainment for your guests. Especially, I see these a lot, but like for younger kids, obviously. I know there's like some places where you can like have a tunnel for a kid that goes into an enclosure. I think that's super cool, and I wish I was like 3 feet tall so I could climb in there. But yeah, so as you can see here, I'm just trying to smoothen out the path. Smoothen out? Is that? I don't know if it's a word. Smooth out the path. You can see this incline here. Worst incline to work with. Right there. You can see like these little bumps, imperfections, and I was like, I really just want like a nice graded incline, but unfortunately it wasn't great. I had to just let it be. I didn't want to spend 20 hours trying to make the smoothest path possible, but it would really be nice if maybe in the future paths could get like an upgrade. I'm a fan of how you can place paths anywhere in this game compared to like Planet Zoo maybe. It is like really nice to not have to be stuck to like where the paths can like be placed. But I also would really like if there were some options you could turn on to like have terrain be affected by your paths, just like the building one they added a while ago. But yeah, I cut out a lot of me working on that because I didn't want this to be an episode about a slope. So I kind of skimmed past it, didn't add most of that footage, but there was a little bit more where I was just struggling. And even here, I was struggling on this path too. This is a bit of a different problem. I was just trying to figure out how we could connect this small holding enclosure or holding building to the main path. But yeah. Here I'm actually working on something kind of interesting. I decided I wanted to kind of have like a attraction sign here, which would sort of show a real Velociraptor compared to a Jurassic Park style Velociraptor. So I kind of made up this fact or fiction kind of attraction sign thing that kids can look at. And I'm thinking I want to do this for a couple of exhibits. You know, if it's like, if we ever get a Stegosaurus, I can be like, oh, fact or fiction, the Stegosaurus's brain was actually in its tail. Or something stupid like that. But I just I used the Dryosaurus and then kind of made a custom head because I couldn't really find anything that fit. And I didn't want to just scale up the other Velociraptor. I want it to look kind of that boxy head shape you see in Jurassic Park. But it's just kind of a little visual for the kids to kind of learn something. And maybe adults too. I know some adults here still probably don't know that Velociraptor was the size of a chicken basically. But I just kind of wanted the sign to look like kind of flashy, kind of a little bit like cheesy. I didn't want it to like seem like this super serious thing. And I think I kind of nailed that. I used these the Jurassic Park-esque font for the sign. I thought that worked really well. And then I added these smaller info boards, which would probably have like the actual facts. Oh, okay, I cut right there. Awesome cut. But yeah, it's sort of just a yellow like ellipsoid, and you just sort of have facts on there probably. I didn't really go into detail trying to like add tiny little signs because a lot of times when you're far away in the game you can't even see those, so I was like, I'm just not gonna worry about it. But yeah, here I'm working on, I wanted to make some areas not feel as themed, so here I just kind of used the same chain link fences with a tarp instead of a bunch of rock work in the areas that were like kind of tucked away. It's a small enclosure, so I'm not really, you would still see it obviously, but I use green tarps, kind of like the go away green effect like Disney has, to kind of draw your eye away from that area. It's just green, it looks like foliage. And I use those as a simple little I guess just block so that no one can see the other side of the enclosure where there's just a bunch of maintenance stuff. But yeah, I used a lot of that and then a lot of rocks. I went kind of crazy on rocks this time, honestly. Normally I don't make a huge amount of rocks in my enclosures, but here I just was feeling it, so that's what I did. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good, honestly. I'm not fully sold on it. I think maybe one day I'll go back and change some things, but I think for the most part, it's a pretty simple enclosure, not too hard to mess up on. And at the end of the day, I thought it was pretty good. So here we're working on that kind of aerial viewing area where you're kind of looking in over the raptors. And I wanted to make this catch just in case anyone falls over the fence, you know. We don't want like someone falling in and getting sliced open by a Velociraptor because they're trying to grab it. But yeah, I kept it pretty simple and just made this chain link effect. I don't remember why I didn't do like just a regular chain link piece, but it looks alright. I'm not finished with this area, I don't know. I kind of want to go in and add some things at the top too. Like, I don't want it to just be one area at the top where there's Velociraptor viewing, but I'm not really sure what I want up there yet. So it kind of remained not fully finished. And yeah, so I was painting there. I went in and changed some of the texture painting. I thought it felt way too muddy at the end of the build, so I went in and changed it later and added more grass in. And yeah, I still just kind of fight between fully grassy and fully like muddy, where animals have trampled all the grass and stuff. And I'm still trying to find like the perfect mix of both. And so far, it's been, I'll go in the park one day and be like, oh, this is way too grassy. I'll change it to a bunch of dirt. And then I'll go, oh wait, this actually looks so bad. I need like some grass and greenery in here. But yeah, so here I am doing the thing again with the tarps. And it looks pretty good. Nothing to really write home about. But yeah, it's coming together pretty well now. This is my last video that is pre-recorded from like 4 or 5 months ago. Thank goodness. So hopefully after I put this scheduled on YouTube, I can go and build some new things. I'm not really sure what I want to build yet, but I'm ready to get back in the game because, like you can see here, this is footage from who knows how long ago. You have the old UI system. I think later in the video it changes to the new UI. I can't remember though. It might. But yeah, hopefully soon I can get back into the swing of things and have more free time now that it's the summer and I can actually like work on things. Super fun. But yeah, so now I'm adding in, I want to add a bunch of like random sticks and stuff. I do this pretty much with all my enclosures. And I'm trying to achieve this like pebbled effect in some areas. I thought it turned out okay. Sorry if I sound a little weird in this video. I'm a little bit under the weather, so if I sound a little weird, just know that's why. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say on this enclosure. It is pretty simple. I mean, the majority of the work was done in the first 10 minutes, and then it's just trying to make everything look nice. So yeah, here I was trying to use these grasses to give it kind of a grasslandy effect. I want it to look kind of scrubby. I wanted to feel like the zoo had kind of intentionally made it a little bit more like the Velociraptor's environment, but I didn't want it to feel super out of place either, so I kind of tried to make that mix. I feel like a lot of people will either do one or the other, where it'll either be fully like, I guess like when you see polar bears in zoos and they're on like this like weird shelf and there's like water and it's like, you can tell this is like an 80-degree like enclosure, but it still has a polar bear in it with cold water. But like, I also didn't want to go the opposite direction where it's like people will have like fully icy mammoth enclosures they build in the game right in the middle of their sub-Saharan Africa zoo. So I kind of try to mix it a little bit. It's just super hard to find that balance, and that's just with the majority of things in this game. You have to find the balance between realism and making it look good. And I think I do an okay job on that most of the time. But, I mean, it's just, that's the extra work you have to put in, the extra mile you have to go, I guess. But yeah, I'm working on these railings here. I try to mix in more realistic fences with this wooden aesthetic. I didn't really mean to go with this like wooden aesthetic with a lot of my builds, but I kind of started with the Parasaurolophus fence, and it's kind of the direction I've ended up going in. But yeah, it's just sort of chance that happened, and I guess I'm rolling with it now. I mean, it's too late to change it now. But yeah, so here I'm about to start work on the restaurant, and I just wanted something at the front that people would see when they come in. But I didn't want it to be something super crazy, so it's not the hugest build ever. It's pretty simple, honestly. But I kind of wanted this rustic vibe. I found some random inspiration on, I guess it might have been like Pinterest, but I didn't really remember to save it, so it's kind of gone forever now. I feel like every time I look for a build on Pinterest that I've looked at before, you just can never find it, especially now because there's just so much AI generated like random things on there. It's kind of made it impossible to use. But the same idea as this build we're building here, basically, there was this part in the back that was more like a regular building, and then the front had this like spherical kind of gallery area, and I wanted to turn that into like a restaurant. I think if I remember, I think this was like a restaurant in like Russia or something crazy, but I kind of just followed its design, and making this circular part on the front was the worst. I hated building it. It was so strange. For some reason, I feel like a lot of times when I scale pieces in this game, they kind of end up like kind of weird, like very slightly off axis. So I was trying to build like this round building, and it gets to a weird point where you're scaling and then you rescale it, and like all of a sudden your like straight lines that you have are like, you have like a diagonal top on top of it. It's so strange. But this is the basic idea of how I was trying to build the building, because I just couldn't find a good curved piece. I didn't want to use like the default curved pieces. But it yeah, I just kind of followed the shape of it and then scaled it up. I promise it's not a purple building. I don't know why I used that as like a visual color. I was trying to like see where I was building, but it's not gonna be a purple building, I promise. It was just super hard to get this right. I don't remember why I didn't want to use like the shape, the curved walls or anything, but I mean, you can see here it's like, I guess I just wanted more of a round building, I guess, more circular. But yeah, I spent probably extra 2 hours just so I could get the shape I wanted. So yeah, that's pretty much how I did that, achieved that effect. Obviously you can see there it's a little ugly, so I have to keep going in and like micromanaging the exact placements of every single piece, just so I don't have those weird cracks. And then I had to add a roof in, and I think for the roof I kind of just used the curved ceilings and kind of scaled it, but thankfully no one sees the roof, they just see from the bottom. The guests aren't going to care about that. And here I was like, oh, these roofs look pretty good. Let me see if it looks good on the front. I was like, maybe not. So I kind of built that, and then I also wanted it to be on elevation, because I guess right now that's kind of the main thing I'm trying to learn to build better, is like work with elevation and elevation changes. That's like, that and landscaping are two things I really want to get better at. Oh yeah, and then here I had to redo everything because I wanted these windows, and they just weren't kind of working right. So I kind of had to come in and delete half of them and then scale them so I could get it right. It was the worst. But like I was saying, just the two things I want to work on most in my building skills are elevation and foliage. And I mean, I wouldn't even say I'm awful at foliage, but I want to be able to be faster at it, I guess. It takes me a long time to find the right plants to fit in an area. And with elevation, it's kind of something to do with just rewiring my brain to think more in the three-dimensional axis. Because obviously, like, when you're planning a park, you don't think super much about like the elevation change, but adding in that third dimension really can make your park so much different. And that's something I really want to work on, especially with this project where I'm kind of super free to do whatever I want with. Obviously, like when I'm building in the Prehistoric Park save, I'm following a very precise build. I'm trying to make it as accurate as possible, which kind of means I just can't experiment a lot. I can't kind of, like if I want to make like a 3-story leveled like terrace of like ground, I can't really do that with that build because Where in Prehistoric Park do you see that? But here I can just, if I wanted to make 3 stories of hills, I could easily do that. I might honestly do that. That's kind of the direction I was going with the Velociraptor. I was like, maybe in the future we can build kind of this hill that goes up. Because obviously I don't want to work on just super flat terrain. Even though this is kind of technically supposed to be in the middle of a city, there can be a little bit of elevation change. I don't want to have like a giant mountain in the middle of my park here, but I think a few rolling hills are fine. I also just think that being in this park allows me to flex my creative muscles. Prehistoric Park, I love building that park, but a lot of the time it really is just copy and paste of what I see, and have to keep going back in and watching something, and then building it, and then watching it again to make sure I got it right, and then building it, and then rebuilding it because I built it wrong. It's a really different process than just if I was building a regular park for myself, like here. Because here I'm building based off, oh, this looks good, this is sure. But there I have to kind of follow exactly what I'm seeing. I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. I enjoy building Prehistoric Park too, but they're kind of different creative states, if that makes any sense. But yeah, back to the build here. Little sidetrack. Here we're building this kind of patio area where we can have guests sit with their food. I didn't want to make this like a giant restaurant, like 5-star restaurant. It's kind of a small little, probably serves like burgers and French fries. I'm not really sure exactly how big I want this park to feel. I don't know if this is like the only dinosaur park in the entire world, or if this is like some random pop-up like dinosaur zoo in the middle of like a world where there's like a million zoos. I'm not sure yet. I kind of like the idea of it being like a smaller zoo. If anyone's read the Dinosaur Sanctuary manga, that's a really good like manga. It's pretty much just this girl, I can't remember her name, but she works at this smaller zoo in like Japan with animals, and they don't have like the funding of like a larger zoo. It's a pretty small zoo. They have maybe they have T-Rex, I think, a Triceratops, and then a few random animals. Nothing like crazy, but it's a really interesting idea. I like the idea of that, where it's like, if dinosaurs were like brought back from the dead somehow, there would be like these small zoos that are like more local. Because obviously not everyone could afford to go to a random like island in the middle of the ocean. And I think it was a really interesting idea. I kind of want to go with on this build. So here I'm just adding in these railings. And I think this little view area here looks really nice. I'm really happy with how the exterior of the restaurant came out. I need a name for the restaurant too, but that's besides the point. I also did an interior as well. I'm not sure how happy I am with the interior. It looks okay, but I think it could do with a little bit more love later on. So yeah, I really didn't want to start with the interior first. I wanted to get the front and like the framing out of the way. I always like adding in these like Bengal bamboo bushes because they're super easy to mix in with anything and feel pretty in place, even if they aren't exactly the most in place species. I think it also is true of real life. A lot of places use like bamboo as a filler plant. And yeah, work on the curbs obviously. Hopefully one day we get curbs for our paths, because it is so hard to place each individual little piece. It's worth it in the end because it looks really good, but hopefully someday we'll get that in game. And then work on the windows here. I went pretty simple, just using these metal beam pieces. I went with this really dark color for a lot of the metal, even like on the fences, and I think it looks really good as like this accent to the warmer like orange and red on the roof. And I kind of just pulled around. I was kind of getting lazy of just trying to make sure it all looked perfect. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing right there. I'm just flying around everywhere. Sometimes it's just like that. You jump in the game and you run around looking at what you want to build, and you don't build anything. It doesn't make for a great speed build, but it makes for a typical day in like a building game, I guess, for most people. I could never see myself sitting there full focus on anything in like a game like this. I just jump around so often. A lot of the time I have to edit down these speed builds because it'll just be me flying over to the other enclosures, just like looking at the animals. It's really a problem. But yeah, I cut that out so I don't have to worry about you guys having to watch me watch animals for half of it. But anyways, after I think there's a few more seconds of this, maybe 30 seconds, I don't know. But pretty soon here, anyways, we're gonna start building on the interior. Yeah, here we go. Perfect timing. So it's a pretty simple restaurant interior, I guess. I kind of based it just off of like what you would see in like a fast food area. Yeah, like everyone's been in like a fast food area, hopefully, if you are a big foodie like me. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much to it. I built a couple of custom chairs and booths, but that's about the only really super interesting thing about it. And you can see here I'm just getting distracted, sitting there and waiting and thinking. Here I don't know why I didn't use the curved pieces again. There must have been something that like was keeping me from wanting to. But I wanted this like wooden floor to look good, so I kind of made these own planks, custom made, and then sort of just stretched them. I didn't want to like worry about scale or anything. I don't think there's too much detail on them anyways that would get stretched. So I just sort of did that, and yeah, eventually you can see here like I just went with the whole floor being like this. It turns out nice. There's a little bit of areas where you can see like some Z fighting there, but I hopefully fixed that, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know how big of a deal that was to me back in the day when I recorded this. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to it, really. This is pretty much it. Soon here, if I would ever stop sitting around and not doing anything, I'll actually get to the interesting parts. I wanted to do a kitchen to it first, and then I was like, I just don't have the time for that, and nobody really wants to see a kitchen. Look how many people are in the park, by the way. I'm just watching the Speedbuild back, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of like guests here for my 3 enclosures. I must be doing something right. And also, it seems like all of these people are also just super ready for a burger. The building's not even done yet. We're already forming a line. So finally, here we do something here. Finally, thank goodness. I've been sitting here trying to like make small talk with you guys while I'm waiting for me to start actually building. So yeah, I just built pretty simple tables. I kept everything super simple on this build. It's not anything crazy. And I just sort of went for this American like diner style. I didn't want to do anything super extravagant for the front of this build. Maybe later in the park we might build like a nicer restaurant, a more like, you know, fancier restaurant. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, this is it. I bought this little napkin holder, some salt and pepper, and then I started on the chairs. The chairs were super simple. I feel like used to. I sucked at making like furniture, but somehow I've improved. It also just helps because in this game, I also use this as like I don't know who made that, but I use it as kind of like a scale for how tall the chair should be, because I really wasn't sure. And even then, I looked back and I think it was a little too big or too small for a sit-down restaurant chair. But I kept the chair super simple. It kind of looks like one of those like metal chairs you would see at like a pretty like fast foody theme park design. And yeah, you can see here I was looking at this too to try to figure out how high it should be and like how wide, and then I just sort of threw them around everywhere. And looks okay. I also think I need like a queue in here now, because the way the guests queue, they kind of like stand in such a weird way. They kind of like circle around different tables and stuff. And yeah, and then here we're starting to work on these booths. I kind of want these windows to wrap around and have these nice booths here. I could have built some more booths maybe somewhere else. I kind of didn't think of that, but yeah, all of it's very American diner aesthetic. And it all looked pretty good. I like how the booths turned out the most. I think the tables weren't the greatest. I also just don't think a lot about how layouts in restaurants work, so that kind of affects the way I build. I kind of built it just based off what I knew. I didn't really look at too many reference images for this, especially with the weird shape of the building too. But yeah, we wrap those around, and then later I fix it. I don't know why I cut here, but I guess I just fix it in post. But yeah, I still haven't finished this yet. This is supposed to be a backstage entrance, something like only staff could enter. But so far, I haven't actually added the gate in. We'll have to design a gate sometime later. But this backstage building, I wanted to go super simple on. I'm still not happy with how it looks from the outside, but just because it's sort of an eyesore, honestly. I know a lot of these buildings tend to be pretty basic, pretty concrete, but I was worried about adding foliage around it, just thinking about if these Velociraptors could like climb the foliage and then like jump out or something, so I didn't want to add a bunch of trees in front of it. But maybe in the future I can like actually figure out a way to make it look nicer. And yeah, you can see here actually, I think this is like the new for the time when they added like the gates in and everything for your animals. So this is me playing around with that. I wanted to add some actual gates into the enclosure. I also this might be the UI maybe changed. I can't tell. I think it did change. I think this is part of the change before it got to the point it's at now. It's like midway between the development of the new UI. It's crazy how old these videos feel, because I spent like 5 months before I actually finished editing them. It was actually a problem. I'll record something and then I'll get so distracted with like life and everything that I just end up with a pile of footage. But hopefully this summer I can get out some nice builds for you guys, since I really don't have too much else besides schoolwork to look at. So yeah, I kept the interior pretty simple. I added some small gates that could close if you just need 2 pins, but I didn't want to make 6 or however many Velociraptors there are worth of pins in here. I thought with something like a small animal like this, they would probably sedate them and move them to like a smaller holding pin. I don't think the Velociraptors would really need a lot of room for a quarantine area. So I kind of left it at that. They'd probably move it to a different building if they needed to like look at it or like give it surgery. I also added these warm lights on top for the Velociraptor, like heat lamps. I know like chickens love heat lamps, so I kind of did the same thing here. And I added these sliding doors, and they turned out pretty good. As they look alright, I guess. I don't know, that's really all I have to say about them. But yeah, the Speedbuild's coming pretty close to an end now, so I'll probably catch you guys at the end of this. And that's going to do it for today, guys. I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment so I can know that you're enjoying the videos. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.